Hello, and another change of scenery. We're here at the Stockman Park Discovery Centre in Luton that over the last year or so has been housing an exhibition devoted to Vauxhall cars, using cars from the Vauxhall Heritage Collection. And this is the last one left. This one is due to go up to Elton Airport now, where the Vauxhall Heritage Collection is being stored. I'm being charged with taking it up there, so fingers crossed it'll start in a minute. Really important because Vauxhall Heritage as an entity has now had to move away from Luton to Elton Airport, where the cars will be stored for the time being. And we would really be enthusiastic to see the Vauxhall Heritage Collection come back to Luton at some point. That's part of the future of the Vauxhall Heritage Collection, and that's what this section of the day is all about, the future of classic cars. So we've sent Matt Tompkins down to Brooklands, and he's going to be chatting to the boss man of the Federation of British Historic Vehicle Clubs, David Whale. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Danny. So I'm here at Brooklands, as you said, with David Whale, who's the chairman of the Federation of British Historic Vehicle Clubs, or the FBHVC, as we call them. So David, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi Matt, good to be with you. So I've been chairman of the Federation for 10 years. Federations actually existed for 33 years, and as the name suggests, we look after historic vehicle clubs in UK. Well, 510 member organisations, and they represent cars, motorcycles, buses, coaches, lorries, vans, military, agricultural and steam vehicles.
So you said you represent us. In what way do you represent the clubs?
So basically, over the last 10 years, it's changed quite a bit. When I started, we used to work very closely with the All-Party Parliamentary Historic Vehicles Group alone. We still do that, but we tend to work with more government departments and actually other organisations like the Heritage Alliance, who actually are positioning historic vehicles as part of UK national culture.
So you go into Westminster and you look after us in terms of the laws and protecting yesterday's vehicles for tomorrow's roads. So how do you actually do that?
So it's, and we're talking pre-COVID in this world, so basically we would interact with government and government departments. Probably the best example I can give you is when the Roadworthiness Directive was introduced in 2018.
And that's the MOT exemption.
That's
what people recognise from that.
That's what people recognise as vehicles of historic interest and MOT exemptions. Now, just to paint that picture for you, actually, my first meeting with the Minister on that topic was in December 2012, and the legislation was enacted in May 2018. So it was a real long burn on that journey.
And sort of how was that focused in terms of what the Federation wanted for the historic vehicle movement? And how is that reflected in the final legislation?
Okay, so bear in mind this was based on an EU directive, so it was covering the scope of requirements of all EU member states. And the biggest challenge that we actually had was how you defined a vehicle of historic interest. And you might recall, because you were around when we were doing it, there are all sorts of weird definitions that came along of measuring horsepower rating of vehicles, the degree of change. And actually that all came to a head in the last 3 months of 2017. And in the last 3 months of 2017, I was travelling to Westminster every week. A bad week was 2 visits a week, basically doing the detailed negotiation on how the UK would achieve a favourable outcome for historic vehicle enthusiasts.
And essentially enable those vehicles to be used no matter what the future legislation for the MOT becomes.
Yes.
Okay, so we've talked about that major piece of legislation that came in 2018. What have you been up to over the last 12 months? What have been the real key elements that you've been fighting for on our behalf this last year?
So this last year, it's been fuel.
Right. And that's the introduction of E10 and ethanol in fuel. We've all seen the stories of fuel lines failing, you know, damage to carburettors. Can old cars run on this new fuel?
Yes.
So that's something you've been doing research into?
So not necessarily a lot of research, because an awful lot of research had been done in the past. I've just described to you the 6-year lead time into roadworthiness directive, the MOTs. The lead time on the introduction of E10 has been running for 3 years. And we must pay credit to the government, and specifically the Department for Transport, because their support in terms of making sure we've got a fuel that we need for our vehicles has been massively supported by DFT.
So just to clarify really, so we've heard a lot of talk about E10, and you may have seen on fuel filler pumps E5 written. That number refers to the maximum percentage of ethanol to petrol ratio, doesn't it?
Yeah, so if you talk of E5, that is from 0 to a maximum permissible level of ethanol at 5% of the overall blend.
So now, or from September, am I right in saying, up to 10% will be allowable at UK pumps?
Yeah. So government are introducing legislation which will be effective from the 1st of September, which allows the introduction of E10 unleaded fuel to our forecourts, and the two are quite simple to distinguish between, because you've got the pump that says E5 and you'll have the pump that says E10.
And the E5 is what we've been running in our cars for years with, you know, no ill effects per se. You know, we have had some reports of damaged fuel lines, but we're able to get around those problems, aren't we, with, you know, ethanol-proof fuel lines and...
Absolutely. I think I've been, so the new grade that's coming is called the Super E5 97 octane minimum fuel.
Right.
Okay.
And this is something that the Federation has secured so that older cars will be able to run without the ill effects of E10.
Absolutely correct. And the important thing is that this product that we call the E5 protection grade actually has been on forecourts for several years, and is even on the forecourts of one supermarket chain. So it's there, you can buy it.
Fantastic. And this is something that we, you know, this is a prime example of how the Federation is to be able to fight our corner and enable us really to use older cars into the future.
Absolutely, and that's why I wanted to pay credit to what government have done, because they actually listened in 2018, recognised the problem, and actually said, okay, we'll give you the E5 protection grade going forward.
That's a great victory.
Yeah, and it's a victory for 5 years.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So this is protected for 5 years and then renegotiated?
So the maximum permissible term by law that these grades can be made available is for a maximum period of 5 years. So what government have said to us is the E5 protection grade will be reviewed coming up to 5 years' time from September this year.
Yeah.
Obviously there'll be reviews as to if any magic formulas come along in the meantime. But equally government have said if there is no magic formula, then they are prepared to legislate to continue the E5 protection grade to keep us on the road. So, you know, effectively, if you've got a historic vehicle, that's the grade to start using, because if that product sells, that will make the petroleum industry and government realise that it's required.
There's a market.
And it will carry on.
Okay, so another one of the things that the Federation is very heavily involved with is education, isn't it? And the preservation of the skills required to keep historic vehicles on the roads into the next 50 years. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think later on you'll have an opportunity of talking to Carl Carter as well, who created these programmes. He can do much more detail than I can. But essentially, the Federation launched the first Ofqual accredited historic vehicle apprenticeship in June 2014. And actually that was a massive learning curve.
Yeah.
Because we started off with day release, we were thinking of running courses through regional colleges.
Yeah.
And what we didn't anticipate was that colleges are now very, very commercial organisations, and getting 10 or 12 apprentices all signed up with employers ready to start the education process on the same day, frankly, was mission impossible.
Right. So what did you do? How did you resolve that?
So we were helped by government actually, because they launched a programme called Trailblazer, and this was about getting much more sophisticated in terms of apprentice offering. And Trailblazer gave us two distinct opportunities. The first was that it enabled us to develop the syllabus of the course. It enabled us to increase the technical content far more. And that's what led to the Heritage Engineering Apprenticeship.
And that's based at the Heritage Skills Academy at Vista Heritage, am I right?
That's right. So Heritage Skills Academy picked up that course, and so far have delivered learning to about 100 students, which is brilliant.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
it's absolutely brilliant.
And what sort of learning is this? So what skills are covered in the apprenticeship?
So at the moment, it's purely a mechanical and electrical content course.
Yeah.
I'll tease you, and we'll actually talk about something else when we talk about the apprenticeship programme in its latest version going forward from here. What also happened was that we made the decision to actually offer the training by block release.
Okay.
So that's with the apprentices studying 1 week in every 9. So the fact they were going away to college for a week meant they were able to travel a further distance, so we could actually broaden the geographic scope of the course. And we provide accommodation and all of those things tied into the course. So, you know, for anyone watching with younger people who might be interested, it's a good, solid course for people to send their sons and daughters to.
So you've talked about the Heritage Skills Trust. What does that actually deliver then?
So what it will deliver, it was created in 2020, and at the time when we were thinking about Federation Skills Trust, Heritage Skills Academy were actually looking to extend their delivery opportunity. They were talking to Brooklands, and some excellent facilities were offered to them at Brooklands Museum. And so we put the two together. There was also a desire to extend the mechanical and electrical content into coach building. But when you start working metal, you actually need more space. Coming to Brooklands Museum actually has created the opportunity to have that space. And I think you've been doing some filming here to demonstrate what that looks like. So it fulfills the objectives of Federation Skills Trust in terms of extending the remit, and it actually gives Heritage Skills Academy the opportunity to extend its geographical reach, you know, just west of London, which is fantastic.
So I'm joined now by Carl Carter from the Federation. Carl, David tells us you were instrumental in setting up the apprenticeship scheme. Tell us a little bit about how you went about that.
Okay, we started just over 10 years ago when David asked me to join the Federation to look at the issue of skills. And quite clearly, at that time, there wasn't an apprenticeship scheme. So managed to get Ofqual accreditation to get the first scheme going. We ran that at Banbury and Bicester for a while, and then we knew that we needed to move to what's now called the Trailblazer scheme, which is the new government scheme, which is employer-led. So we managed to get a whole team of people together and develop that new scheme, which is the Heritage Engineering Apprenticeship.
Based at Bicester Heritage?
Based at Bicester Heritage, and the main thing for that was working with what is now the Heritage Skills Academy. So having found John Pitchforth, who's the MD, we've worked very closely together, and you know, we've now been running best part of 4 years now at Bicester.
And how many students have been through in that time?
Well, we've got at the moment we're running around about 100 students. We're running through currently. Wow. So the number's just about on the 100 mark.
Fantastic.
And in fact, one of the reasons that we're here at Brooklands is that we've run out of space.
Right.
It's a great story because we've run out of space at Bicester, and at the time there wasn't really any more facilities that we, you know, could basically take at Bicester.
So you spoke a little bit about coach.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that. So coach presumably is coach building?
It is indeed, yeah. So coach building is basically the forming of metal.
Yeah.
And the students need to be able to form in, you know, steel, copper, aluminium. So, you know, because there's a whole host of different materials actually used for coach. But basically, it is to make a body.
Yeah.
So you're forming, a lot of welding involved in making panels up. So those are the skills that predominantly in coach, which are not in the standard mechanical.
And this is something that you've had quite a call for, I understand.
Yes, well, I think when we started, we knew that the mechanical side would be the biggest side for us.
Yeah.
And therefore we concentrated on that to get the numbers up and get the Heritage Skills Academy going. But we've known for a while there's been this, you know, pent up demand for coach, and we've been able to achieve that by getting a new site geared up specifically for coach.
And presumably, if the demand's there, it's an employer-led demand, isn't it? So they know where the skills shortage actually lies.
Yeah, all the students that will be coming, and at the moment there are 24 already signed up for here. All those are employed.
Wow.
So they're all apprentices, as apprentices always used to be, because apprentices were always, employed. And it's exactly the same with this. So they've all got employers when they go back, and it's those employers who wanted that student to learn those skills.
And it means that these coach building skills will continue for the next 50 years and onwards.
Yeah, I think they probably looked around their own workshop and decided that the age profile is getting to a point where they start they need to train youngsters to get those skills.
And how brilliant we've got now a state-of-the-art facility all just down underneath us here at Brooklands.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic facility.
Fantastic. So I'm joined now by Owen and Andy from the Heritage Skills Academy. It's been your job for the last 6 months or so, hasn't it, to be getting Brooklands ready to receive new apprentices. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and what this new facility means for the apprenticeship scheme.
Well, firstly, we've been working very closely together, hence us sitting next to each other for the last, I would say, 6 months really. We sat down in September and started the planning. We have beneath us in the flight shed, a 4,000 square foot unit, and it was a blank canvas, wasn't it?
Well, it was full up with a lot of stock from Brooklands, to be fair.
So I think the first challenge was to clear it and to create that blank canvas, and then design and create a facility which is appropriate primarily for coach.
That's coach work.
Coach works, yeah. That's one of the key reasons we're here. Obviously, we were operating, and we still continue to operate at Bicester, but Bicester, we've outgrown it, and we need a second site. We know there's the demand in the industry, and the design of it has been enjoyable. It's been fun. 29th, which is next week, we're going to have our first cohort here. So, I mean, the facility, Andy knows the technical bits, but we've been working closely together to ensure that it's right.
Yeah. So what have you actually got below us? So we're obviously now we'll overlay some footage and stuff. So what have we actually got going on down there? What does the new facility actually give the apprentices the opportunity to do?
It gives the apprentices the opportunity to cover all aspects of body repair. So we're talking modern classics, pre-war classics, the fabrication, the wheeling machines, the folding machines, the jelly machines. We just put in a big install for dust extraction, welding bays, TIG welding bays. It's the whole scope is what we're trying to cover. We have to be all in everything to everyone.
And these are skills that are really in demand in the industry.
They are in demand. There's a big uptake, obviously, for classic car restoration, and it's classic car restoration without actually cutting corners. So it's fabricating the panels using body blocks. So that's the general gist. So there's quite a lot of tasks we've got to do before we start working on cars.
So, but the idea, by the time the apprentices leave here, they should pretty much have the skills to be able to make an entire vehicle body. That's what I understand. Is that right?
I think that's generally the gist, but what we're getting is a mixed bag of repairers. So some will be just doing accident repair, good wood damage, etc. Cars that are damaged on track. Some are just restoring classic Mark II Escorts, Golfs, Beetles, that kind of stuff. And then there's the pre-war stuff. But it's a case of they have to be able to cover a wide range, but they will learn their job at work. Is generally where it happens. Here we would just concentrate on key elements, short little tasks. But there is the endpoint assessment in the standard is all about them being able to have clear blue water between us, the trainers, and the assessor, and they have to do a task, and it will be a given task, i.e. a front section of a wing, a rear balance. So there's various tasks they have to do.
And they'll all be equipped to cope with those.
Yeah, and they're out on their own to do it as well, so they have to do it. So it's no you pass the exam and you're through. You have to practically do the task.
And I think it's worth adding the way in which the course is designed. So it's a block release program. So apprentices will be travelling up on Monday morning. Next week it's a bank holiday week, so it's a 4-day, but it would normally be a 5-day block. So they'll spend a week immersed, spending that time with Andy as a tutor, learning those skills, and then they'll go and put them into practice in the workplace as well. So it's it's a good balance, and they'll come here every 5 to 6 weeks.
And I guess they're coming in with ideas of, having been in the workplace, they'll come in with the ideas of what they want to achieve, and how they'll implement those things on their own projects at work as well.
Yes, so we have 2 development coaches, and they spend time going out to the employers and checking on their progress in the workplace. And it's a really strong partnership between the employers, the tutor, the development coach, and obviously the HSA team as well. So it means that they really progress. They really progress nicely, don't they?
Oh, fantastic! So you've got some amazing kit down there. You know, it's fantastic. You know, you seem to have everything that anyone would need.
Yeah, we have collected and acquired and worked with a number of partners, and in fact that's something we'd just like to acknowledge really. There's been a number of companies who've been really, really positive.
Employers letting us, have kit on loan, wheeling machines, folding machines.
Yeah.
Plus the partnership with Contour Academy and Bruce.
Yeah.
We bought into that and got a lot of his equipment downstairs, so that's really useful, because it's a lot of the stuff, the anvils with different shapes, and there's a lot of kit that's
I guess you're kind of trying to give people such a grounding that perhaps in industry they'll only have the specific tooling for the specific jobs they'll be tackling, but if they then move from place to place, they need to know everything.
And I think they need that range of skills, and what we haven't done is gone out and acquired brand new state-of-the-art equipment. We've picked and chosen the right range of skills because we know that each workshop is quite different. So that they're not flattered, for example, with the state-of-the-art welder, for example. We've got a range of those in there.
It's trying to get them to work with the analogue welders to start with, because a lot of these new modern machines you just point it in the right direction. I think these guys are actually setting them up, and that's why we've got a different range of different brands as well, just to get them to understand different machines are different. Get the best out of them.
Fantastic. Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Jen, for taking the time out. I know you're busy getting ready for the new cohort coming in on Tuesday. Monday.
I mean, I would say this. I think it's a fantastic place to be. It's an inspiring place to be. The sort of birthplace of British motorsport, such a significant role in making, in various developments, all the stuff that's behind us and around us, and actually we've just soaked it up and working, haven't we?
Every time you walk around, you see something new. It's like, I didn't see that.
So I think
that inspiration is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the apprentices are going to be inspired and really excited about coming here, and I think they're so lucky and so fortunate. I think the feedback we get from most people who come to visit, and we had a few, they all go, "Oh, I wish I was, back doing an apprenticeship, or I wish I was in that position." How lucky they will be, and I think they're just gonna love it here.
And I guess you might even be inspiring a generation as they're coming and viewing stuff at the museum that they want to come onto your course.
Yes. We hope as soon as the museum opens, and in fact we're open sort of just before the museum opens, I think on April the 12th. But we plan open days and skills days, and we've got some courses planned for enthusiasts as well. So there's a definite aim to grow as the museum grows in the future.
Fantastic, brilliant. Thank you very much, gents.
All right, thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks very much, Matt. You can see we're back in the Practical Classics workshop now. That was absolutely fascinating. Finding out about what's going on in the classic car movement and what we can expect, really, really important, and brilliant to see the brand new Heritage Skills Academy down at Brooklands. Fantastic stuff. Well, stick around. We're nearly at the end of the day now, but very soon we're going to have the National Car Club Awards, so stay with us.